We're going to be going over how do you know if you're taking in enough salt on a daily basis in order to improve your energy, to reduce brain fog, improve recovery, and so much more. But also we're going to cover the flip side, which is what happens when you take too much salt in and what are those signs and symptoms. Welcome back, everybody. Great to have you here today. Episode 2946 of the Cabral Concept. Let's dive right into the show. Want to be able to bring you this topic here today since one of the most popular nutritional supplements out there right now are electrolytes. Electrolytes can be absolutely fantastic. We use them inside of our daily nutritional support. So obviously something that we're a big believer in. Now there's four main electrolytes. There are actually more, but the four main ones that you'll typically hear about are sodium and potassium and calcium and magnesium. But for the most part, really when people are talking about electrolytes, they're talking mainly about sodium and potassium. And that is because when we want to improve the hydration of our body at a tissue level or a cellular level, what we need to think about is that each cell acts like its own pump. It has its own osmotic pump. Osmotic is just the hydration, basically. It means that each cell needs a certain amount of hydration inside every cell. Just like your body, right, is made up of trillions of cells. Well, each one is their own ecosystem. So the right amount of sodium and the right amount of potassium enables them to do their job. So actually we want at least 2x potassium, usually 3 to 4 potassium as a multiple over sodium per day. That often gets overlooked. But you might ask, well, why then are so many electrolytes focused on sodium? Well, sodium is the most predominant mineral or electrolyte that we sweat out when we do go through hard exercise. So that's why I always talk about bio-individuality in my practice. That means that, yes, many people could use extra electrolytes. But the truth is this, is that if you are not someone that's sweating a lot, how many more electrolytes do you really need per day, right? It's like, how much more sodium do you need per day if you're not someone that's sweating? The answer may be not that much, unless you are someone that runs a little lower blood pressure, and like there are other reasons for it, which I can actually share with you in just a moment. But what I want to think about is this, that there's no all for one. Like there's no just dogma, everybody should eat this, everybody should do this. That doesn't really happen. The more you can learn about yourself, your own needs through signs and symptoms. We have a lot of free assessments on my website, so those are completely free. If you want to head on over to stevencabral.com/assessments, you can actually find them right there. They're all completely free, and you can look at all the different parameters really that you'd want to know about yourself. And then of course there's at-home lab testing. If you're someone that's oftentimes a little higher cortisol, a little higher stress, and a little higher blood pressure, you might be retaining more sodium. So in that case, do you actually want to increase your sodium levels? Probably not. But what if you're someone that is often a little bit lower on cortisol, you have more brain fog, you have more fatigue, and you have low blood pressure? So should you increase your sodium at that point? Maybe a good idea, right? I can't give you any medical advice, but what I can do is I can help you to find these answers that are much more personalized for you. And that lab test you can find is actually, I'm going to give you two more. That one's the hormones test. So that's at stevencabral.com/hormones-test. Again, you don't have to work with us specifically, but at least know that these labs are available. Now, the next one that's going to give you much more data, and this is based on excretion, and it's really, this is a topic that we need to learn more about, is a hair tissue mineral analysis, also called the minerals and metals test. It shows you what your body's excreting. I just went over earlier this week, I think it was just yesterday on the show, how it is now definitive, it's been definitive now for 18 years, that higher levels of aluminum, lead, and mercury increase levels of autism. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but we know for sure that it's one of the things. And so a hair tissue mineral analysis, that minerals and metals test, actually looks at your levels of mercury, lead, aluminum, cadmium, arsenic. Those are our toxic heavy metals, big five right there. And then but it will also look at your calcium, magnesium. It will look at your sodium, potassium, and it will look at your phosphorus. So like a lot of those great electrolytes right there, and that will help you decide essentially along with your personalized plan for you what your body needs. So I just wanted to state that I'm big on electrolytes. I use my daily nutritional support every day and I get my electrolytes, but then it's based off of, all right, am I sweating a lot? Is my blood pressure low that day? Like what's going on? And then I don't need to mass consume a lot of electrolytes. And of course, I use a little pinch of sea salt and a little bit of a squeeze of lime in my water that provides sodium and potassium. But sometimes you do want to add more, and I'm not denying that, and I do agree. If you're doing a sauna and you're sweating a lot, well, that's something to look at. But let's go over right now. Let's first go over sodium, salt, right? Let's go over some signs that you don't have enough salt. So one of them I kept mentioning was low blood pressure. And I think that that's important as well to review. And the reason is that not everybody is prone to high blood pressure. Some people are prone to low blood pressure. Now, your doctor will always say, oh, amazing, your blood pressure's 92/58. Okay, sure, you're not going to potentially have a stroke. That's a good thing, but you might feel weak. You might feel tired. You might get lightheaded upon standing. You might have brain fog. Your heart rate might start to accelerate as you just walk up a flight of stairs like mine used to do, right? With postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, right? So low blood pressure is not always good. High blood pressure is not good. What's good? Balanced is good, right? That's what we always want. Not too low, not too high. And so this is important. So blood pressure, somewhere between, let's say, like 107 to 120 for your systolic, diastolic, somewhere around 75 to, well, let's say 70 to 80. And 60s can be fine. It really depends on the individual. But you're going to feel your best, most likely, your diastolic around 70 to 75, and your systolic, let's say 107 to about 118, 19, 20. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's blood pressure. Now, sometimes if you're not getting enough sodium in, you start to feel nauseous or like you need to vomit. And some people are like, oh, I need to eat, maybe, right? Or you just actually may need a little bit more sodium, a little bit more salt. All right. Another one is headache. One of the things that always used to happen to me when I was younger is I would get a headache mid-afternoon. Part of it was food sensitivities from lunch. I would eat things that were terrible for my body. And another, though, is that once I get that inflammation, that cortisol-based spike, I drop down and my sodium, my electrolytes would drop down as well. I would have a headache every afternoon. It was awful, brutal, absolutely brutal. And not everybody's like that. I don't see it in my oldest daughter, but I do in my youngest. My youngest daughter very much, modulates, or not modulates, is very much in line with the propensity towards allergies, Th2 dominance, the stuffy nose, upper respiratory based issues, all of the same, Th2 dominance. But now that I know that, that's the great thing. That's what we try to teach in IHP, become the health coach in your own home for you, your family, etc. Is that I know now what to do for my youngest daughter. Like I know how to help her fall asleep easier. I know how to help her do all of these things. So, it's a as they say, a curse plus a blessing. I had to go through 10 years of really poor health, but it's helped me to an amazing degree now to live a very healthy life after about 27, 30 years old. And now I get to help obviously other people, which is my passion. And I believe hopefully my purpose. And then my family, right? And so I get to serve them. So headache is one of them. Weakness, lethargy, fatigue, poor recovery from exercise. Those can be others. Muscle cramps. That's probably the one that runners think about. Oh, mile 18 during your marathon, you start to cramp up. You need more salt, right? Salt-based tabs is often one of those big ones. Spasms in the muscles. So hydration is great, but hydration when sweating without salt can be a recipe for disaster, which is called hyponatremia, which is very dangerous. Believe it or not, seizures and coma can come out of, this is really just for marathon runners who are just drinking straight water, people that are doing sauna and just drinking straight water. You'd have to be sweating a lot, but certainly it can happen. And then as you start to move towards that, if you start to feel like groggy, mental confusion, no clarity, you need to then be able to improve your electrolyte balance. Okay, so that's low salt. Those are your symptoms. What happens though if you have too much salt in your body? Because again, everything in this world is like, well, you just need more salt. Well, that's all I see on social media. You just need more salt. Well, maybe, but maybe not. And so let's look at what happens when you have too much salt. So you have excessive thirst. Now that could be a blood sugar issue, that can be a lot of other issues, high blood pressure, but excessive thirst. When you have too much sodium in your blood, what does your body want? It wants to dilute it. So it wants you to drink more and more water. So if you have a high thirst, be careful about always adding more electrolytes. You might just need more water at that point. All right, swelling and puffiness. If you wake up and your face is swollen, your ankles are swollen, your fingers are swollen, might have taken in too much sodium. That typically happens to people when they go out to eat or they do takeout, where a lot of sodium, it's basically high salt, high fat, and those things can make you more puffy. So it's something to look at. High blood pressure, I mentioned that, right? The opposite of low blood pressure. Well, if you have too much salt, it can cause high blood pressure. Some people will say to you, there's no such thing. Salt won't cause high blood pressure. It will. It absolutely does. How do you mitigate that? Well, you just drink more water, right? So it's always about fluid balance. If you're taking in more salt, you take in more water to balance that. And if you don't take in enough salt and you take in too much water, it drops the blood pressure. So very simple. At stephencabral.com/resources, those are all my resources. Those are all the things that I use in my own life, my private practice, private clients, everybody in our global health community. Those are all the things I recommend. There's something called an Omron heart rate. It does your heart rate, yes, but a blood pressure monitor. Keep it right at home. Literally, just put it on your left arm, about 1 inch above the breast, the midpoint of your elbow right there. Keep the cords facing down. Keep your hand right about heart level or a little bit lower. Keep it rested and see what your blood pressure is. Okay, typically you take it 3 times. Don't hold your breath, just breathe naturally, and you'll be able to find your blood pressure. And I actually gave you those numbers previous. Okay, headache can occur for low and high blood pressure. Same with nausea, same for vomiting. So we really want to take that into account. We don't necessarily know. We need to look at the other factors, and thirst is one of them. High blood pressure is one of them. Flushed face, that's a big one too. And that often happens with high blood pressure. So I wanted to share those with you specifically. And what I want to mention is that if we want to improve our overall blood pressure, and again, I'm not giving you any medical advice, and I have a whole podcast just on blood pressure and like more advanced techniques, but if it's sodium based, then what we want to do is we want to increase our fruits and vegetables, and a lot of those green leafies as well. Those are typically higher in potassium. So although, let's say citrus like lemon and limes contain some salt, they contain more potassium. So a nice way to just raise those potassium levels is just to get some greens in and put some lemon in your water, right? So that will certainly help. Everybody goes to bananas. Yes, bananas have potassium, but there's a lot of other fruits and vegetables that have potassium as well. All right, well, what if you have low sodium? Low sodium it's actually very easy to fix that, right? Because what we can do is we can then add sea salt. Celtic sea salt's a favorite of mine. Redmond's real salt is a family favorite of mine because it's almost like regular table salt, but it's real sea salt that comes from typically Utah in the United States, and it's from the dried up salt marshes, salt fields. Basically, it's just, I've flown over them before. Giant salt fields that's just from dried up lakes or dried up ocean. So it has the sea salt right there, thousands of years old. So that is an easy way to start to boost that. All the electrolyte products that our company Equilife makes, like the daily nutritional support, the alkalizing vitamin C, all of those are balanced electrolytes. So they're not going to throw you off one way or another. That's what I like. And then you can bio-individualize it from there. If you use your daily nutritional support in a smoothie and you're more on the lower blood pressure side, or get the headaches or anything like that, you just add a pinch of sea salt to taste. And it tastes delicious, obviously, with a vanilla shake or chocolate shake. Now, if you don't need more sodium, okay, no big deal. And then what you can do? Well, you can just add more potassium-based fruits and veggies into your smoothie. So these things are easy to correct. I'm not against other electrolytes. I'm really not. I just want to base that based on, is this person sweating a lot? If they are, okay, maybe they need a higher sodium to potassium. But if not, I want to be careful with these really high sodium-based electrolytes that it's not pushing you too far in one direction. Hopefully this show was helpful. I can't link up any nutritional supplements, but you know where to find all of the different products. You can just go to stephencabral.com. That's all the free podcasts. That's the assessments. That's everything you need. And today's specific show notes will be at stephencabral.com/2946. Take care, everybody. Have an amazing rest of the day. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Friday review. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.